Data streaming on Facebook. And now we're just waiting for YouTube. And now we are live on YouTube. We're all set to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a session of, I think I might, Rhonda, I forgot to give a title to this.
We'll go in later. We'll go in later and put a title in once it's all.
I decided to change browsers just in case to see. I mean, I'm so confused about all my internet problems on this thing.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
we're winging it today. We're actually playing with some figuring out some different technology in the back end to do our lives. So bear with
anything goes. Expect everything and anything, please, and have patience.
And also as well, I'm going to do the caveat off the top here that Nicole's internet is giving her issues. So if she freezes during this live stream, just hang tight. I'll sort of walk us through until she comes back again. So,
and I will.
And she will. So don't worry. So I'm just gonna take a second here, Nicole, and do the off the top little things that we do to give people some direction for the video. So Nicole, the CEO of the Canadian People's Union. I'm Rhonda Swinar. I'm a Canadian People's Union member, and I'm a PowerShift coordinator. And our website, thePowerShift.ca, you'll see it right over my shoulder here, thePowerShift.ca. The streaming service we're using right now doesn't allow us to put a frame around. We're going to be working on that this weekend. I was using one, testing out one earlier this week, and it had a nice frame, so the website always stayed like right there. So we're playing around with that, folks. And the Canadian People's Union created the PowerShift. So that's where the difference is. So the PowerShift is a solution that was created by the Canadian People's Union for all of us in Canada to use free of charge to get our collective civil and political rights in a way that we can utilize them. We already have them, we just can't utilize them very well. We can utilize them in one place, and that's voting. That's it. That's the only place that we can utilize them now. Or in a union, an employment union. That's the only places where the government has allowed us to use our collective rights. Everything else is individual. Everything just defaults to individual rights for all of us. So that's what we're about, is getting our collective civil and political rights in a way that we can have referendums, that we can have hold our governments accountable, we can hold politicians accountable, we can hold policies that don't work for us. We'll have a way to work on those in, so it's about moving us to a consensus, or a more of a, instead of being so adversarial with our governments, instead being in a working solutions for our governments, really, in a way that involves us all, that they can't shut us out through the parliamentary process. That's kind of what happens now, is we're shut out through the parliamentary process. So sign your convention of consent. That's on our website. The very first thing you see on the website when you go to the PowerShift.ca, the convention of consent. There's a French version of our website. So just click on the French, there's English and French toggle, just click on French and you'll be taken to the French version of the website. Share this info. Ask people to sign. If they say no today, they may say yes tomorrow. This is sort of like sales, folks. It's if they're hearing it for the first time, it may take a few times before they understand. Stay informed and involved. If you wish to, please become a C.P.U member. The Canadian People's Union is a registered nonprofit that is membership driven. It's driven by memberships and members. So we need members, people. We need people to say that they believe in this. They believe in what we're doing. They want to be involved. They want to be part of this. That's what members are. And then if you don't want to become a member, please donate. With every donation, you get our free ebook. And we're actually very grateful for the people we're very grateful for the help and the support that we've been getting all along, we've pretty much self-funded, but we're very, very grateful. And we now have 2 legal teams that we're having to put money aside for into the legal, what's that called? Trust fund, I guess, the legal trust, with both firms, in order to ensure that what we're working on is successful. So, and that's my 2 cents. That's kind of off the top. That gives Nicole time to get her thoughts together.
Nicole's trying to get reconnected. I kind of dropped off there. Jesus. 3 internets, people, and I still can't stay online. So there's a conspiracy going on.
Jeez.
Okay, I'm just in a poor spot. Anyways, yeah, like Rhonda was saying, the C.P.U is membership geared. We need all the members possible to help us out there. Everybody, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I signed, but we need you to take that responsibility a lot further, because just signing is not just your responsibility. You have a lot more responsibility than that. Your responsibility is just as heavy as ours, is getting this done. And that's by helping us financially, physically, mentally, you know, and supporting us, and getting everybody that you know involved. This is one shot that we have. It's a wide open door, ready for you all to walk in, but we can't do the walking for you. If we could, we would, but we can't. So it's all up to you, people, to make sure that this works, and it's for the future of your children and their children to come. So as long as we always ensure that they know to never let that power go, but first we need to go and get that power, then make sure that they never let that go, because this is going to be historical. It's going to be really huge in in the sense of your political and civil rights. It's going to change politics forever, for the good, where the people finally have a say. We're not trashing our governance system. Our governance system is really good as far as, you know, getting people their checks and things like that, and organization. But the problem that we see is politicians. They're the ones who sign, or who create, how can I say, the laws, and sign the contracts, make the deals, the backhanded deals that they've been doing since 1982 without the people's consent, when they really needed the people's consent. Now, everything that they've done that wasn't right with the Indigenous nations, that wasn't right with the Canadian citizens, can all be fixed. And it's going to take time, but the first thing that we need to fix is education, because the Canadian citizens have no clue what their rights are, what they are not. They think they have rights. They really don't have rights. You have certain rights that can be taken away, but there are other rights that can't be taken away. And even if the government says, oh, well, we signed at the international level, but we don't need to put it in our laws yet. No, it's an automatic. So those are the things that have been proven at the international level. We've got enough proof of that. Excuse me. And our constitution is still in the UK because of that. So the UK Parliament has all the power over our constitution right now, whether the Canadian government wants to admit it or not, or any constitutional lawyers in Canada. They need to do a little bit more research. Surprise, surprise. So, you know, and more lawyers now are starting to see that, yes, we are right. It takes them a while, but hey, here's a loophole, people. It's not just a loophole, it's an open door. An open door to your power.
And this is what happens when you actually do real legal research, and when you actually look at the laws and the legislation and read the Hansards. You have to read the history of how something came about and what discussions were around that. Through that, we found, like, this is hours and hours and hours of research. And through that, we found little loopholes that the parliamentarians, like the UK Parliament, left us, because they knew what our Canadian government was doing in 82 or 81, 82 was wrong. Yeah. They were prepared not to We showed that video. They were prepared. If you're not familiar with the video I'm talking about, scroll down our page and there's a video of the person who was part of the Kershaw.
Yeah.
Part of the Kershaw report.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And he explains their whole process. And he explains exactly, like, they were ready to tell Canada to shove it. We're not having anything to do with your constitutional amendments. You can do them in your own parliament. They were ready to do that. And what happened is the night of the long knives over here happened. And it circumvented that. Not completely, though. Not completely. There are things that our government had to do inside of 15 years, and they never did. And how did they get around that again? The Calgary Declaration. There's a lot of things that have happened that we are not taught ever. It's not hidden. They don't hide them. We're just not taught them. We're not, They don't tell us, it's not part of our education system. So if you don't go looking for it as a researcher or hunting for this information, you don't find it. And even today, like, there's all these agreements that are going on today. Like, there's always agreements between the UK and the US. There's agreements between there's constant agreements. You see the UK left the European Union. They left Brexit or Brexit or whatever that's called. They left that. So that's a game changer. There's a whole bunch of things that are constantly evolving. Our Constitution doesn't evolve, and that's a problem. That is a huge problem in Canada. And part of what we want to see happening is along with our collective rights, that allows us to bring our Constitution to a place where it can evolve to the needs of the people, the needs of the country, so that people are not having to make decisions, or this division of power happening that's based on decisions made 30, 40 years ago that haven't played out, or that our parliament isn't listening to anyway. They've got they're using the unwritten constitution more than they're using the real constitution, because the real constitution no longer serves them. There's so much stuff that they do that we just aren't aware of in the general public. And it all comes to play. That's why you hear judges saying, we can't do that. It's part of the unwritten constitution. They're using the unwritten constitution for that. We cannot make a decision on that. It's the unwritten constitution. And the unwritten constitution really is just
backdoor agreements.
Yeah, backdoor agreements and practices that have become the norm. So they start doing something that circumvents an agreement inside the Constitution, and that becomes the norm. And that's why so many people were screaming around the pandemic and around them circumventing our rights in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because if that goes on long enough, that becomes an unwritten agreement that the people have allowed this. So therefore, they no longer have those rights anymore. Yeah. There's a bunch of, like, it sets very dangerous precedent. And that's what we want to stop. And we also want to bring in the Indigenous people. And I'm going to let you talk to that.
Yeah, and we have to bring in the Indigenous peoples, because in a country like Canada, where we've got way more people than the Indigenous have, what you're going to learn about is the right to self-determination, which we all have that right to do, and the rights to decolonization. So now there's different aspects for Canadians and a totally different one for the Indigenous nations. The Indigenous nations were colonized, okay? And this is what we explained in French yesterday. We have the right as Canadian citizens with our Constitution and the agreements that when they created the UN, everybody was able to decolonize from the imperial governments. Okay, the monarchies and whoever was ruling them, and go off and become independent. Over 80 countries decolonized since then. A lot of people don't even understand that. There's 5 actually decolonizing right now. So there's stipulations. Sometimes it could take a long time. but most of them got taken advantage of because they didn't know any better. They didn't know what to do. They basically copied the same thing that they were into before, which was crazy. And or did like Trudeau did to us in 1982, which was to keep us, you know, again, he's the one that decided what type of self-determination we were going to have, and then decided that, oh, they were going to keep parliamentary democracy, not people democracy, parliamentary democracy. So he used our collective rights to give himself power. And that's what they did. And every other country did the same. So a lot of things changed in 1982 with other countries as well. Okay, so this was a whole setup, people. So to come to this, you know, one world governance. It's not government, it's governance. Well, we don't care about government or governance meanings technically, as long as our governance works fine. We don't want to destroy what works good. But there is a problem when your prime minister and your the premiers of all the provinces take away your rights when they're claiming self-determination. And this is why the how can I say that the UK kept our I'm just going to say bye here. I had the company there, but this is why the UK made a stipulation, and then they overrode the Canadian government as far as having parliamentary sovereignty over a constitution, because they're the ones who have had to elect it. And our government in 1931 make sure that that's what would happen, so that the people didn't have a voice again, and they could defraud all of our natural, like defraud us and the Indigenous nations from our natural resources and everything else. Okay, which could have given us dividends instead of taxation. Okay, so if we're smart enough, we can change this whole thing around without chaos, without hardships, without doing anything that we're not supposed to, because first of all, the international won't let us. So we got to be careful. So on July 30th, 31st, and the 1st of August will be a celebration of coming together for the first time in history as Canadians and Indigenous nations under our rights. Because when we get back to the Indigenous nations, what does the decolonization word mean? And you know, the big debate, which to me is like, well, there's nothing really hard about this. What are they having such a hard time defining who's the people and who has this right? Well, decolonization means that really the Indigenous nations can decolonize, which means that they can have their own country. However, in a country such as Canada, that's impossible. Same with Australia, same with New Zealand, because we have more people on this side than they do on their side. If they had more Indigenous peoples than Canadian citizens, or like in some other countries, the Indigenous nations were still more populated than the newcomers. So they had the right to retake their country. And that's what decolonization means. You take what belongs to you. And the government's supposed to help you do this financially as well. Okay, the imperial governments and whoever was managing your affairs, the trust company, the trust governments. So for decolonization, and for the Indigenous nations who are stuck like us here in Canada, what does decolonization mean? Assimilation? No. They can't become a country within their country. So what's the next best thing? And what needs to happen? They need to unite with the Canadian citizens and come together in their constitution. By giving them a spot in the constitution, totally decolonizes them as an equal shareholder of Canada with Canadian citizens. The same should happen in Australia, New Zealand, and everywhere else. At least become equal shareholders. Just because there's more people on one side than the other doesn't trump them. And that's what rights means. They still can maintain their rights, and we need to honor those rights. But if you don't learn about those rights as Canadian citizens, they're not going to be able, nobody's going to be able to move forward, and we're not going to be able to get our rights to our self-determination and type of decolonization from an imperial monarchy or system of governance. Okay. Yes, Rhonda?
I just want to add to that, Nicole, because that's dead on. That's exactly what needs to happen. And so Indigenous people in Canada have their own governance. They do. They have their own system of governance right now. The issue that I personally see, and I've always found this very strange, is that they also don't have representation from that in Parliament. And that's an issue, because Parliament policy, the legislation, the laws, the regulations, the acts, all filter down to them as well. But yet they don't have a voice at all inside of Parliament. It's always been very strange to me that it's like, here, we're going to do the lip service to give you guys decolonization. You have your own governance, but we're still going to control through a minister how you can govern and what you can and can't do, and all of that stuff. So that's really not self-governance. That's like giving a child freedom to leave the house with an extreme curfew. That's pretty much the same. So I've never understood why they're not part of our Parliament and our Senate and our, how come the chiefs aren't part of the Senate? How come they're not part of the Governor General process? They're not part of that. The Queen is supposed to represent them, but yet they're not part of any part of our governance that the Queen is responsible for, the Crown is responsible for. It's just very strange, very strange. And that's what I honestly, that's what gets me motivated around this, is seeing our country whole and seeing our people whole. And stopping this division between the two sides. Like, that division, yes, it exists for some people because of the personalities that they have and the way they've been brought up. And yes, it's not right. However, for the most part across Canada, there is this huge sense of people wanting to work together. And that's what we want to foster, is that sense of people working together to do what our leaders won't do for us. And that is unite us and make us whole instead of keeping us divided. And that's what, to me, that's what this is about.
Yeah. And what we spoke about yesterday was that they created a division between the English, the French, and the Indigenous nations. And they needed to keep it that way so that they could keep their control. But once we unite together, okay, there's nothing they can do legally, okay, to stop us from doing this under our political and civil rights laws that Canada and the United Kingdom signed on to. So a lot of people will tell us, well, the UK is corrupt. You think they're going to help us? And listen, in 1982, they saved us to this day. This is why we're able to go to the UK and request. Actually, the request is a demand, because the UK, legally, the UK is obliged to add us to our constitution. But we need to show that that's what we want, okay? Since the government didn't do it in 1982 and had 15 years to do it, now what we're going to do is to show that, yes, we're coming together to understand our rights and the Indigenous rights within that two-row treaty, 201 wampum treaty. And it's up to every Canadian citizen to understand what that means, because you need to respect that. And how can Canadians come together in respect of each other, the English, the French, and the Indigenous, if you don't even know your own history? So this is what that weekend is about, people. The first day is about showing the world that, yes, we're standing united, peacefully, and to learn about each other finally, so that, yes, we can move forward. Because the better way forward here is the two-row wampum treaty with the Indigenous nations on both sides. They finally decolonize properly. They finally have a say in our country. We finally have a say in our country. To keep the status quo right now and not to do anything is not what needs to happen here. So we need to, how can I say, work our way around, removing all racism, removing all of these things, because, a lot of times people are racist because they don't understand the history or why things are like that, or they're jealous because one's got more rights than another. Well, you got to understand where those rights come from. And when you're looking at Canada as a country, somebody was just asking, do we consider Canada a country or a corporation? It is both.
Here's both. Here's what I say. Canada is a country that is governed like a corporation. That's what Canada is. We're a country. We're a nation. We're a nation. We're a state. We're part of the Commonwealth. Canada is a country, just like the US is a country, just like the UK is a country, just like it's a country. It's not a corporation. Canada itself is not a corporation. We have a Westminster style of governance that operates like
under common law on that aspect.
Exactly.
Okay, that operates people.
Yeah, exactly. That operates very much like a corporation. And in fact, powers are a corporate thing. There's this division of powers is a corporate, like if you look at all the language, all of our language inside of our parliament, all of our language inside of our laws is all legal and corporate. That's where the corporation comes from. It's Canada has to operate like a business with trade, with international trade, with international with international agreements, with the treaties, with everything. That's what it is. It's business. Our government is responsible for the business of Canada, but our country is ours.
Yeah.
That's how I explain this. Like it's
yeah, because you can explain it any which way you want, but you got to make sure that you explain it the right way, okay, and not half-ass. I'm not the most polite person on this planet, and I need to apologize for that. And I'm kind of crude at times, but given my experience and the mess that we find ourselves in this country, we need to make sure that Canadian citizens really know what they risk losing. Most of them have not a clue because they've taken advantage of everything. So when you see that you're going to be losing your rights, you're going to be stuck in your cities with the new Parliament of Mayors and giving mayors more power to strand us like they did in the last 2 years. But that is neither here nor there. This issue that we've been working on has been going on since 1931. This is about our legal, political, civil rights, okay? And we all have the right to unite under that whenever we want to, wherever we want to. And the government has to also help us in doing this at the international level. Okay, so maybe the government doesn't know this because our politicians have their noses elsewhere instead of where it should be, and that's the rights of the people, because if they don't know our rights, they shouldn't be in politics. Okay, go Rhonda.
I'm going to say this louder for the people in the back. Canada is a country. It is a nation, it is a state, it is a country. It is not a corporation.
Canada Inc. is the Crown's corporation is a corporation.
Yes, and there's and I think it's confusing because as Canada was becoming Canada, in Upper Canada, a family, like one of the elite families, created a corporation called Canada Inc. I don't know if that's where people keep thinking that that's why Canada is a corporation. Canada is not a corporation. Our governance, how we're governed through the Westminster style of governance, operates like a corporation. And for international trade and for the Bank of Canada and for the international banks, we have to operate very much like a corporation. Our laws,
Yeah.
our legislation is very corporate-like, but the country we're a country.
Yeah.
So
there's a
that's just
difference.
louder for the people in the back, because we keep getting a bunch of things. Canada's not a country, it's a corporation. Canada's a country, folks.
Yeah,
Canada's a country.
Yeah. And the thing I want to address too, okay, to make this crystal clear, okay, is somebody was just asking, let me just see here. Okay, a corporation, non-human. Okay, a corporation, okay, all that non-human BS, get that out of your head, because it takes a human to own a corporation, okay? The corporation itself, okay, employees,
I want to
there's
stop
a separate.
I want to stop this, because we're gonna go in circles on this.
Hang on, Rhonda. Yeah, but I just want to finish this. An employee still has all their rights, and the corporations have to follow the rights of the people. So there's no place in there that says you're non-human, okay? You just need to know and understand the legality of it. So a lot of stuff out there is being said, and I want you to stop the BS, because they're keeping you focused on things that are irrelevant. Who gives, I'll put it in plain English, who gives a shit? Who really gives a shit? Right now, it's about you, your rights, and the rights of all Canadians together. This is what's on the line, and you need to focus on what needs to be done, not on the mandates, not on the farmers, not on whatever. It is about you and saving this country and the rights of every Indigenous person and Canadian citizen in this country. Please stop the bullshit. Stop, because whoever, the propaganda that keeps going on and keeping people confused is the fact that they are not focused. You are not focusing on the real issue, the root cause of what is going on. And that is that we have the right to make the final decision. We have the final decision-making authority in this country. Our government has removed that, stolen that from us in every which way. There's no Magna Carta, there's no nothing. All of that is hogwash, totally useless. We already have the door open. Take the right door or join the gong show. It's up to you.
When you go back in history to learn something, that doesn't mean it's still applicable today. You have to follow the history. Change happens. And what's happened with a lot of this stuff is legislation has changed. The Hudson's Bay Company sold all of their land, like all of the rights to their land, to England. That's how we became Canada. I don't know how much more I can. Anyway, that's Nicholas Wansbutter did he is being swamped so much with questions about, people demanding that Canada's a corporation and stuff. He actually made a video on it yesterday. So I'll put the link when we're all done. I'll put the link to it in the comment section here and in YouTube, on Facebook.
How long is it, Rhonda?
It's like 9 minutes.
How long is it? Why don't we go through it right now? Okay,
I'll bring it up. Just a second. You talk and I'll bring up that video.
Well, when I talk, I can't control what comes out of my mouth. And it gets really tedious to repeat and repeat and repeat. Because I get emails from, oh, this one's got this solution, that one's got this solution, and they're all barking up the wrong tree. And, oh, they all want to save the country, but they're leading you into a place where it never ends. We're in the right spot, right at the UK has no choice, because they have to honor what we want as having sovereign, parliamentary sovereignty over our country to this day. Even if we say, oh, well, we're independent. Yeah, so are the Native people on the reserves. It's your prison. You get to run yourself in your own prison. Now, is that independence? No, that's what the UK says. Independence doesn't mean liberty. You want freedom? Your freedom comes at a cost. It's called collective, political, and civil rights, not what you personally want. We can't decide how it's going to go after, until we all learn about it. We all understand our past. We all understand what's happening, coming along, not too much. But do we really need to focus on that right now? No, we need to focus on getting those rights. Those were stolen. Do you want to keep going forward where others are going to be deciding your future? Or do you think that 38 million Canadians need to decide for themselves what the future of our country is? So you make that decision, okay? And can I just say, my mission is to repeat, no. My mission is to make sure that people finally get a grasp, use their own brains to think, and can start taking their responsibility. You have a responsibility. If you were able to, pull out children out of you, that's your responsibility. But it doesn't end there. It's the whole country. It's keeping this country peaceful. It's about keeping this country intact economically, physically, and make sure that everybody prospers. A street person is a shareholder, co-owner of the Crown of Canada. So go ahead, Rhonda.
So I have the video queued up. It's actually 14 minutes long, but I want to address something first, okay? I want to address something first. People keep asking, when are we going to get to 51%? When are we going to get to 51%? 51% is the ideal, folks. That's the ideal.
Yeah.
And it follows referendum legislation. That's why 51%. However, we don't need that. We just need to be able to prove that people in Canada want this. And how do we demonstrate that in a way that can be proven in court is through the Convention of Consent. It's not a petition. So none of your information is ever given to anybody. What happens is your legal document that you're signing is assigned a number that's specific only to you. And those numbers are what are used to prove in court that we have enough people that really do want this. That's what this is about. We're not asking for an amendment. You know what? And this is how we've evolved too, because when I started with this in 2019, we were asking for an amendment. We were going to go for a constitutional amendment. And then through research, because we don't stop our research, right? Through our research, we realized we don't need an amendment. We just need to go back to the UK and say, we're ready. Because they left a clause in there that allows the people of Canada to say they're ready. We're ready.
Yeah.
That's what this is doing. It's demonstrating that we're ready for, we're together now. We're ready. When it comes to the chiefs, and people keep saying, which Indigenous leaders are with you? Much like there's no federal leaders, there's no provincial leaders with us. We don't need Indigenous leaders to be with us. We need the Indigenous people. The people.
It's about the people being in power, not any leaders.
What the leaders will not do for us, we can do for ourselves. By uniting. That's what this is about. And so on the Heritage Day weekend, on the July 30th, 31st, and August 1st, it's all about the people. It's not about the leaders. It's about the people coming together.
Yeah, and legally, okay, even with the 51%, people keep saying how many numbers. We will not tell you our numbers. You don't give the enemy, okay, the government or whatever, any idea of when you're ready to move.
And let's just say it's wonderful. Just keep signing, folks. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but at the same time, because of the correction in the UK, we don't need that many. This is a right we already have, folks. The signing of it was when we first thought, okay, we're going to have to push for the amendment. But then going back to see what Trudeau did and getting all of the private documents that were not given to everybody, and going through what was said and what was done legally and illegally. Oh, wait a minute. When we went ding, 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 okay, we can actually do this. Because it's already a right. We just need to get it through. But we do need a good push of the people. It has to be public interest. But public interest to how many? 500 people at Parliament? No. Millions. across Canada need
across
to stand
Canada.
up.
Our own
Across
government.
Canada.
Our own governments make decisions, policy decisions. They change policy, they change legislation. They make policy decisions based on 1,600 people across Canada. That's it.
Yeah. So, you know, it all depends on you. It all depends on everybody taking their responsibility. We've got 38 million people not taking care of their responsibility. It's your country. It's your responsibility. You've got the biggest business in Canada. Make sure it works properly. We've got an economy that's involved into that. Make sure it works properly. What do you see for your country? We've been begging people for over 3 months now to make little videos. What do you want for this country? Make a little video, send it to us, enter our contest. What do we have? Crickets. Are the Canadian citizens, are you, look at yourselves in the mirror, everybody, you're all here, which we thank you for. And yes, you're taking care of your responsibility. You're already here. You've already signed, but it doesn't stop there. Look at yourselves in the mirror and say, okay, am I a responsible shareholder, co-owner of the Crown of Canada and all of its assets? Am I doing my job for all the children? You're responsible for all the children across Canada, not just one or two.
We have a responsibility to work together like a huge community. And how does that work all get done? It gets done in our own individual communities, and then that filters up. It starts in our homes, and it starts in ourselves. Our governments since World War I, World War II, probably even before that actually, but you know, we can go back that far, at least it's documented, have been systematically underrepresenting us, misrepresenting us, and dumbing us down to what our responsibilities are when it comes to our government. They don't want us involved. Government for them, making decisions for them and doing what they want and making sure that you know, all of their back end deals go through and stuff like that, is they have a much better chance of all of that happening if we're not involved. And that's exactly what's happened across Canada, is we slowly became less and less involved, to the point now where you have less than 40% voter turnout in elections, and the elections are still deemed valid, because nowhere in any election acts does it have a minimum voter turnout. You could have 2 people turn up to an election, and that election would still be called a successful election.
Yeah, and you know, I'm noticing some of the chat here, and you know, in regards to, again, the Indigenous nations, we Canadian citizens are responsible for our Constitution, not the Indigenous nations. It's our job to include them.
Exactly.
Okay? And if they don't want it, well, at least we've included them. But who would not want these people who have fought all of their lives for finally get respect and recognized, and you know, not being martyred, finally get a chance to sit in government, 50-50 ownership of this country, because it is what it is. And we need to accept that. And they also need to accept that it's the only way this is going to happen. And we're both getting ready to lose all of our rights if we do not do this come July 30th. So take your pick, people. Misery or free, up to you.
Yeah,
comes with that.
That's exactly
and
right.
You need to be responsible, and not one person can decide what's going to happen in this country. Everybody can decide. They've created open government, okay, for the New World Order. Well, we can use that to our advantage. Thank you very much, Canada. Stephen Harper, you know, 2010 and 2011, and then finally signed on to it in 2012, and he had already got the work done. You know, if they think we haven't been watching, they got us. I mean, we know a lot, and there's a lot of things that we can do to help the citizens come along. But we need you as members. We also need you not to just sign your Citizens Convention of Consent, but to go and get other signatures. It's up to the responsibility in your communities are yours. It's everybody. So we have a hard time. People say, oh, I signed, then walk away. No, it doesn't end there, people. It's the rest of your lives. You want your freedom, you need to fight for it. You want your freedom, you need to stand for it.
And we need to teach our children. Otherwise, they will fall into the same trap that our grandparents, our parents, us, like it doesn't take long. You know, people inherently like to be things looked after for them, right? We're so busy in our daily lives. It's great to have all of this just looked after for us, but that comes at a huge cost. And we're paying that price now.
Yeah. So what easier way is there to take a right and unify, okay? Take a right we already have, instead of trying to bring up a Magna Carta. Come on, you know, too little, too late. And the Magna Carta, if people know how to read, and you read the Magna Carta, it only liberated the elites, not the serfs. We are the
lords. It liberated the lords. That's it. It didn't liberate anybody below a lord.
You know, I mean, I applaud anybody trying to find a solution, and it's not easy trying to find a solution. People are grasping at straws, but now people need to start doing critical thinking. People are asking us, oh, did you, you know, the other, it's up to come and look at a solution. Not up to us. We don't have time to chase every group down. We're in the law. We research, we look at what's coming, we look to see how we can stop this. We have to make sure that we win every argument possible, and that our lawyers are educated on that, because, you know, Canadian lawyers don't know half the stuff that went on in the UK in 1982. So, and then you got to see, what did the lawyer that worked for Trudeau do? He admitted that we were a colony up till 1982. What makes you think we're still not? Well, by our legal rights, we still have that right. And yes, the UK acknowledges it. So whether the UK is corrupt now has little to do with what our rights are, because not every judge in the UK is corrupt. The judges here might go and think, oh, whoops, maybe we weren't taught right, because the judges here were not taught right either. Oh la la, okay? Everybody needs to look back at what happened and where everybody went wrong. The judges are equal shareholders of the Crown of Canada with all of us. The police, the army personnel, everybody is an co-owner, shareholder of the Crown of Canada with all of us. So when speaking to all of them, are they going to come in as a cop, or are they going to come in as an equal shareholder with the Crown of Canada? They need to choose. People asked us, are we going to have politicians on July 30th, 31st, and 1st? Zero, none. There's no room in there for them. This is about the people, not about the politicians. It's about our right.
What we want to do, we're already challenging some of the speakers that are invited and coming to talk about the next steps. What happens once we have this? What happens once, you know, what do you see needing to change in order for this never to happen again? What do you see needing to move forward? Because the next step in this isn't disseminating everything. The next step in this is injunctions, first of all, to stop decisions from all of the corrupt decisions from happening, and to give us sort of, you know, let me back up a second. When our Constitution was put in place in 82, I don't think people realized that a lot of government activity stopped for about 3 years while they rolled out the Constitution in the provinces and in the federal government and to all the federal departments and all of that. A lot of policy changes and all of that sort of came to a standstill over those few years while they rolled all of that out. Well, the same thing will happen here. Things will kind of come to a standstill, that only the bare minimum to keep us operational will be happening. No one's going to lose their job. No departments are going to be shut down. We're not going to shut down government. We're not going to shut down the whole public sector. Like, it's just insane that people keep thinking that that's what's going to happen. It is, it really is. Think about it. That's, you're not really using critical thinking if you're thinking that way, because we don't want to decimate our country. What we want to do is to take some time and figure out how to put the checks and balances in place that are needed to hold our governments accountable, how to put those checks and balances in place that are needed to call referendums when needed, to call accountability structures when needed, to look at policies, so that the things that are happening right now in Parliament, for example, yesterday in Parliament, our Parliament really shut down democracy. They even shut down parliamentary democracy yesterday for Bill C-11. They just said, okay, that's it, discussion's over, we're going to vote. And they had 150 amendments that they didn't even get to look at, and they had to vote. So it's now going to the Senate, and the Senate is our House of Commons sober second thought on all decisions for the House of Commons. So the Senate's not going to look at this now until the fall, late September.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to stop, is that kind of activity. And how do we stop that? Well, that's going to take a while to figure out, and not a long while. In the meantime, we can begin changing our education system to put in place immediately pieces around democracy, pieces around much like when the metric system came in. If you're old enough to remember, I'm old enough to remember when the metric system came into our school system. Everyone was so in shock and didn't know what to do. I had already graduated when they started teaching the new constitution in our education system. And I have a son who's 16, who's just finishing grade 11. And I've been paying very close attention to what they're taught in school. And let me tell you, it's not much. It is a drop in the bucket of what we used to be taught. So there's all these little things that we need to begin massaging. And that's what really the collective part of this is. It's not about communism. It's not about making everybody the same. It's not about making sure we all are equal in everything that we have. And that's communism. What we're talking about is making sure that we, the people of our country, can hold those that we are giving the ultimate power to, decision making at the international scale, that we can hold them accountable for decisions, and that they are including us in decisions that affect our lives. For example, the WHO assembly, like the health assembly, we should have had a referendum on how we wished them to vote on those, at least a certain amount of a referendum around that, to get the pulse of what the people really thought and really wanted. Instead, it seems to be popular, like they control us through their propaganda. And it is propaganda. A lot of the stuff in the media is propaganda around creating a public perception that they want. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So we would be able to stop that. No longer would the government be able to spend money on propaganda. That's gone. They don't need to.
Hey, Rhonda is right. Okay. They're creating the propaganda. Guess what? I'm sorry about cutting in here, but the other day I was thinking, okay, well, we have rights, right? Now, in the United States, through the legal agreements for political and civil rights, the other countries had to create, well, the US has two groups of lawyers to work with people who protest. They have to be on hand to help those people. Okay, because it's their legal right to have lawyers there.
Yeah, why do we not have that here? Instead, our government...
Exactly, they find the same documents.
Instead, our government holds our legal system hostage, and at the same time tells us, if you don't like a policy, you can use the court system to challenge it. They really play both sides against us.
Okay, like so Rhonda, the CBC, okay, who owns it, people? We do.
You guys. Now, we all do.
Under our collective political and civil rights, we have the right to, and the government covers the lawyers' fees, okay? And the government is supposed to help us achieve decolonization and self-determination on each side. for the Indigenous nations and for the Canadian citizens, because we really rule at the end of the day. Okay, it is our right. So they're supposed to supply us with that help financially and every which way that they can. Now, I'm going to bring out those laws, okay? And the thing is they can't say boo, because we're exercising a right we already have that they have signed on to, and not only they, the UK. So the UK helped us in 1982. Now, people need to stop hammering on the UK here, because they're the ones who never declared SARS-CoV-2 under a life-threatening disease. Canada did. The rest of the world did. They didn't. Why is that? I think they have a little bit more respect for the law and legality. And so when you look at that, yes, a lot of their members are corrupt. Boris Johnson is actually a US citizen. Okay. So when you look at that and what's going on, well, our best bet before Canadian law is the UK. So really, they're the ones who are there. So they're the ones who could bring the gavel down on the Canadian government and what it's doing and not doing. So who would you rather follow? What we're doing and getting it done properly, legally, where they can't touch us because we stand in law, and every other person who works in law or security of Canada is also equal to us as a human being. If the politicians want to be there as standing with us, because they too want the people to have final say over what the government does at wherever we choose to together to do, then they're welcome to it. But don't come and tell me that you want to stay in the political party and then the political party overrules the people. That's the difference, people.
I want to address something here too. This has been a very long video today. It's going to be a bit longer. And why is that? We get that this is daunting, and we get that listening to us over and over, we're repeating a lot of stuff a lot of times. The reason we repeat it is because people won't read it. They won't read it. We put stuff on our website. We give stuff to our members all the time. We do, like, they just don't read it. Videos are the easiest way to reach people, to get a little bit of an interest, so that they then go and read it. And that's what this is all about. We do have in the works our wonderful husband-wife team. Oh my, I can't say enough about them. I just love them. They've put together a really nice short Coles Notes version. And this, I saw that mentioned, and it really is a Coles Notes version of what we're doing and what we're about. Nicole and I put a book together. That's what you get when you give a donation. And it is an interactive book. And it has links to a bunch of websites. It's got links to videos. It's got links to, it's really an interactive book that does the same thing. But Richard and Jen did a fantastic job of just creating a PDF booklet that,
you're revealing something. Yeah, I don't think you were supposed to say.
well, it's not ready yet, and I'm not going to say anything more, but it's coming. And I am so thrilled, because I know the amount of work that it takes to put something like that together. And I am just so grateful, because we're all volunteers, folks. I work a full-time, like, I'm self-employed. I work a full-time hours, and then I do this. I have, I'm the only,
I keep hoping she gets fired.
I can't fire myself. I got to put food on my table.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
So this is, and we all do this out of the love of our country, the love of our children. I'm doing this because of my son, which is who, by the way, folks, you're going to start seeing him in some of the videos that I do. He is so excited. I wouldn't allow him to be in videos until he was done school for the summer. So because I wanted him to focus on his exams in school. So he is going to be a part of some of them. I'm very, very cautious with social media and and the younger
age
generation.
wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But he has a voice. Like, he's the one that he helps all the time. He's so excited. He helped with one of our logos. He has helped with taglines. He's helped with it. I often run stuff by him. Does this make sense to you? And he says, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mom. And then I know to go back to the drawing board and we kind of work it out. He's my sounding board for a lot of this stuff, because a lot of it, when Nicole and I are doing research, a lot of it is in legal speak. And then to try to disseminate that into something that we all can easily understand and not lose what it's really about is sometimes very difficult. And so we're getting much better at it. But at the beginning, when we started doing this, we couldn't understand why don't people understand this? It's easy. It really is easy. It's so easy. People keep making it difficult. But the reason people don't understand it is because of the words we use, the concepts that we use. And we're trying to make everything that we do easier to understand. And also, people have a bunch of different ways of learning. Sometimes they're not ready to listen or really hear what we're saying until they're ready. And no amount of changing our message, no amount of making things simple will help in those cases. And because this is a very what people view as a daunting subject, when really it isn't, that's a hurdle that we just have to overcome. We're about action. We're not just about education, we're about action. And that is something that is very sadly missing in our activist world in Canada. People are always about education, and we got to create education and awareness, and then vote the next person in and they'll do it all for you. Well, no, that's, how insane is that? We've been doing that since 1867 and nothing has ever changed to our benefit. So doing the same old under education and awareness is going to get us the same old. And I don't know about you, but our country isn't going to last much longer under the same old. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay, so Rhonda, I think we've pretty much covered more than we thought we would.
We did. Do you want me to? That video is actually 14 minutes long. Do you want to leave us? We can say goodbye to everybody now, and we can come back to that video. Nicole, you look evil. You're frozen with the finger point.
Oh my God.
So do you want us to come back after the video, or do we just want to sign off once the video is over?
What we could do, we'll come back after the video and put in our last thoughts.
Okay, just give me a second, folks. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, because if I do, we're going to freeze.
I need to find it here.
Is Canada a quote unquote service corporation, or is it a real country? This is
Hey, Rhonda, there's no sound. Rhonda, no sound.
Sorry, folks, I muted my computer, not realizing I needed to keep it open. Just 1 second and we're going to start this again.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. So as I mentioned in the preamble, something that I'm confronted with fairly frequently, and I see signs to this effect on some businesses owned by people who are in favor of freedom, suggesting that Canada isn't actually a country. It's a, quote, service corporation, unquote. And the suggestion seems to be that somehow that means you don't need to follow the laws of Canada, or that Canada doesn't actually have any laws. I'm not entirely sure what benefit it would serve us if Canada were actually just a corporation, and specifically the Hudson's Bay Corporation, rather than a country. I think the reality on the ground is going to be the same either way. Even if someone could prove that in law, Canada isn't a country, it's a corporation, we go back to the statutes establishing the Hudson's Bay Company, they still were given the right to create courts, have police, etc. And regardless, the reality on the ground is that the courts, judges, politicians, and 99.9% of Canadian citizens all accept that Canada is a country, that Canada's laws are legitimate, and that we should follow them. But I do think that the truth is always important, regardless of how it may change the practical reality on the ground. And as I say, this is something that I see recurring fairly frequently, so I want to deal with it. Now, the whole Canada as a corporation was something that I had a really hard time putting my finger on. What exactly is the argument and the basis upon which people hold this belief? Most people I talk to can't explain that to me. However, a viewer of Don't Talk TV did recently share with me an article written by an individual who identifies himself as Cal Washington, who appears to live in British Columbia. And he's produced this document called The Shadow Magic Show, Canada is a Corporation. So I want to go through the main arguments raised by Mr. Washington and show viewers how they don't actually mean what I think he thinks they mean. Certainly, Canada is not a corporation. It's a real country, as we'll see as we go through the acts. Now, the first thing that Mr. Washington relies upon is the Royal Charter for Incorporating the Hudson's Bay Company of May 2nd, 1670. Now, this is obviously a typed reproduction of this, not the original, but I'm satisfied that this is an accurate portrayal of what that act says. And what Mr. Washington relies upon is the wording that I've highlighted here, where Charles II, the King of England and all the British Empire at that time, said that he do make, ordain, constitute, establish, confirm, and declare by these presents and by the same name of Governor and Company of Adventurers of England trading into Hudson's Bay, they shall have perpetual succession. And then it goes on to explain that that perpetual succession includes all the powers I described of having courts, having police, etc. So the argument seems to be that since Charles II said that the Hudson's Bay Charter would be perpetual, no laws that followed it have any validity. However, if one looks in especially medieval statutes, many older statutes, this phraseology of perpetual was used very frequently. And it didn't mean permanent and could never be changed. I think it means perpetual until there's a further law made. I mean, certainly there's many laws that were passed in perpetuity centuries, even millennia ago, that are not good law today. And this is one example. So how the Hudson's Bay Company stopped being in control of what was called Rupert's Land at the time was that subsequent to the British North America Act in 1867, the Rupert's Land Act of 1868 was passed, and I just have it up here from the Government of Canada Department of Justice Laws website. Basically, just to distill this act down, is that on agreement, the Hudson's Bay Company gave up its rights over Rupert's Land and really returned Rupert's Land back to the command of the Queen, and it was incorporated into British North America. which eventually became Canada. The mere fact that Charles II used the words in perpetuity doesn't make this an illegitimate act. Any contract can be broken on consent of both parties, and historically that's what happened here. The British Crown paid the Hudson's Bay Company a sum of £12 million in return for them giving back Rupert's Land and allowing it to be incorporated into British North America and eventually Canada. Now, the next argument that Mr. Washington makes is that the British North America Act itself is invalidated by a subsequent law titled the Statute Revision Act of 1893. So I'm just bringing up that law on my screen here, the Statute Law Revision Act 1893. Now, certain things are repealed, and there's a schedule here saying what is repealed. Now, yes, the British North America Act of 1867 is listed, but it's only in part, namely certain sections here and it's not even the whole sections. In some cases, it's whole sections, such as all of section 25 and all of section 2 are deleted, but other sections, just certain words are deleted. And if we go to the Canada Law's website, the Constitution Act 1867, it's quite helpful because it actually allows us to see what was changed, right? So, for example, in the preamble, the current wording after the Statute Law Revision Act, the last sentence of the preamble just says, and whereas it is expedient that provision be made for the eventual admission into the Union of other parts of British North America, then it has a footnote that we can go down to here where it shows you what the wording was before the Statute Law Revision Act and actually confirms here that this clause was repealed by the Statute Revision Act, and that's what was taken out here. Now, the argument of Mr. Washington is that because it's taking out the words, be it therefore enacted and declared by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, that revokes the entire British North America Act. In my view, that's clearly not the case. The act was already invoked and had been for a couple of decades before this law was brought into play. And in any event, verbiage in the preamble doesn't directly impact whether a law is a law. The preamble is just that. It's a preamble explaining to you what the law is about. So just in summary, the Statute Law Revision Act removed parts of the British North American Act, but did not invalidate the entire act. So Canada, or the British North America, still existed. And then we have the repatriation of the Constitution and the Constitution Act of 1982. Now, I've seen a number of people claim that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms doesn't actually exist and our Constitution doesn't actually exist. And that's another one I've had a hard time figuring out on what basis people believe that. Helpfully, Mr. Washington fleshes that out. And it would seem that the argument is this, that Section 58 of the Charter says that subject to Section 59, this act shall come into force on a date to be fixed by proclamation issued by the Queen or the Governor General under the Great Seal of Canada. Now, that date was fixed. You can click on footnote 109 here, and it'll take you down to the date. And I mean, you can find videos and photos online of the Queen signing this and it being proclaimed. So, in my view, it's beyond debate that this has actually been proclaimed. But it's this subject to Section 59 that seems to be used to suggest that the Charter was never enacted. So what does Section 59 say? Section 59 says that paragraph 23 sub 1 sub A shall come into force in respect of Quebec on a date to be fixed by a proclamation issued by the Queen or the Governor General under the Great Seal of Canada. And under subsection 2, a proclamation under subsection 1 shall be issued only where authorized by the Legislative Assembly or Government of Quebec. Now, so that's where the sticking point is, that the Government of Quebec has never authorized a proclamation of section 23 sub A. But all that section 59 says is that 23A doesn't come into effect. It doesn't mean that the entire charter doesn't come into effect. And let's just look at what is section 23A. Section 23A is the language instruction. It says that citizens of Canada whose first language learned and still understood is that of the English or French linguistic minority population of the province in which they reside, or who have received their primary school education in Canada, English or French, and reside in a province where the language in which they receive that instruction is the language of English or French, have the right to have their children receive primary or secondary school instruction in that language in that province. So that's the only thing that's not inoperative. It doesn't cancel out the entire charter. What Section 58 is just saying is that everything subject to 59 comes into effect. But since 59 hasn't happened yet, that means everything except Section 23 of the charter is in effect. So yes, the charter does exist. It's been in law. And again, I mean, it's irrefutable. If you go to court, and I've been doing it for 17 years, the charter, even if I'm wrong in law, in practice, the charter absolutely is in effect. Now, there's another argument that Mr. Washington uses is the text of a speech made by a former Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia. Now, he doesn't give any citation of this, so I don't know where or when this speech was given, and it's impossible for me to validate this, but assuming that this is an accurate representation of what she said, and appreciating that we don't have the context here, here's the passages that he relies on as a smoking gun that Canada isn't a country and there's no head of state. So the Lieutenant Governor is saying that as head of state, I have the same mandate as Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of Canada. That is to say, apart from a single reserved power to sustain democratic governance, none. Canada is an autonomous and fully sovereign nation. Now, notice he ignores the Canada is an autonomous and fully sovereign nation. He just focuses on her saying that the Queen doesn't really have any power. And it goes on to say, thus Her Majesty is our head of state, while the Governor General is the de facto head of state, and neither is in command of the provincial or territorial jurisdiction. And there's a final quote here about a head of state, however, is the CEO of the province and is required to sign all state documents in the name of the people who render them into law. Again, I don't have the full context, but it looks like what she's commenting on is actually the de facto situation versus the de jure situation. Mr. Washington takes this as an expression of what the de jure or the legal situation is versus the reality on the ground. In my view, this is a layperson who doesn't know the law. I mean, let's be honest, governor generals and lieutenant governors are patronage appointments. Increasingly in recent years, they seem to be people with a long history of loyalty to the governing party. Often they're what some people might call a, quote, diversity hire, unquote, versus a legal scholar. But it seems that what she's doing is trying to explain in layman's terms the fact that de facto, she doesn't have any power. And I think we can see this. The Queen has just rubber stamped laws passed by our Parliament for decades. So in reality, although on paper and in law, Her Majesty the Queen is the head of state of Canada, in reality, she's just a figurehead, and it really makes the Prime Minister, in practice, the head of state. And as for the comment about being CEO, again, it appears clear that the Lieutenant Governor is just making a comparison, again, putting in layman's terms, not saying that the Lieutenant Governor is actually the CEO of a corporation. And I'm not even sure under Mr. Washington's logic or analysis what British Columbia even has to do with Rupert's Land or the Hudson's Bay Company, since British Columbia was never part of Rupert's Land. There are other arguments made by Mr. Washington throughout the document. I'm not going to go through all of them. I think I've covered the most important and salient points to show that Canada is a real country and the Charter does in fact exist. So this video isn't legal advice. If you need legal advice, you can call another lawyer or myself. My phone number and website are listed below. If there's any show topics you'd like to see me cover, please send an email to the email address listed below or leave a comment in the comment section. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and following us on social media.
There.
Okay, I'm coming back. Oh, I love that video. Oh my God. Yes, finally. Clarity.
I have to tell you folks, if you subscribe to his channel, he is amazing at explaining things. And I like it because he doesn't come at it from a bias. He comes at it from like we do. He looks at every angle, like, and I appreciate that. And it's kind of like, again, he has not said in that video anything that we have not said. He just broke it all down in 14 minutes, and it's easily shareable. And why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly. You know, and it's really important for people to understand that, okay, we called it, well, I called it a paper crown to be able to explain it to people. And I see Pierrette using that. Yes, it is a paper crown. And the thing is, you know, when you're looking at, they call us a constitutional monarchy. And the constitutional monarchy is a paper crown. So now we've got a paper crown owning a corporation. That's illegal on paper. Okay. In courts, that would be illegal. Other than, as long as right now, though, it's legal in a sense, because it's still the imperial government that governs the Queen in the UK. They decide what she can and can't do. And when he said that they just go along, like it's like the governor general just signs whatever, and they're like, you know, he's really friendly with the government. It's just that you have to replace the word that royal assent is given, okay, for laws, but you got to change that word to dictated to by the governor and council, whoever gets the royal assent. Go ahead, Rhonda.
The reason that term royal assent is still used, and the reason it's the Westminster style of parliament. So when they've changed the legislation and the acts and all of that over the years to remove the Queen from having any power at all, they kept the systems in place, is what they did. And those systems in place were kept there and not changed or altered in order to give us, the people, the illusion that someone was working in government on our behalf that was over and above the government. And that's not true. The government polices itself. There is nobody above the government that polices the government, and it's been that way for decades. Did you notice?
Right up till 1982.
Exactly.
1982. England came down for the first time in the history of Canada, 1867. Yep. The UK government pulled their sovereignty, parliamentary sovereignty over Canada to protect us.
And
that's why I'm hopeful.
And that's what this constitutional correction is about, is them pulling their sovereignty over Canada, because they still do. The fact that they hold sovereignty over Canada only on this one act, only on the Constitutional Act. They cannot make amendments to the Constitution, but this is a correction to correct an error. It's not an amendment regarding the division of power. It's not a new clause being added in. It's not anything else. This is a correction that they acknowledged in discussions probably should have happened in 82. So yeah, I want to bring
it's about the people being in power. Okay, this is about corruption versus freedom.
This is a good segue. Did you guys notice something on the screen of Nicholas Wansberger's video when he was talking about the Governor General and he was highlighting, notice how he ignored this second sentence? Did you notice the sentence right after that? Our national destiny remains in the hands of the men and women who are the electors. Who are the electors? Look at yourself in the mirror. That's who the electors are.
The political power rests in the hands of the people on election day, which, and this is why they keep saying, your vote is important to us. So they can lie, cheat, and steal and tell you all kinds of stories like, oh, Quebec can separate, Alberta wants to separate, Saskatchewan can separate, and they're full of crap. Legally, they're full of crap. They could never do it, never. Okay, not nationally, not at the international level. It'll never friggin' happen. But they use this to get the people to be split again. So be smart. We don't want to split. We want we own the country and all of its assets, its natural resources, its human resources right across Canada. What do you want? Do you want to have a say as the CEO? Or do you want to let it all go and let elites tell you what you can drink or eat or when you can go outside? That's the decision you need to make. That's the difference. And we've got that open door. It's already our legal right. Why chase friggin' rainbows or things that can't happen, things that aren't even legal, that are not even into our law, when we have the law there for us to use, and they can't deny the law. So now we're looking at corruption versus the law. What is going to stand strong, the people and the law or the corruption? There's a hell of a lot more of us.
And this is exactly why, first of all, what we're doing isn't illegal. It's not trying to take the government down. It's not trying to replace the government. It's not trying to form a coup. It's not trying to rewrite constitutions across Canada. It's not trying to give the government ultimatums. It's really just taking what we already have and putting it where it should always have been, our collective civil and political rights. And they can't deny us that because it's our right.
Yeah. And we've got a question about they're asking a question about Mr. Peckford, and to get him on board with this. Mr. Peckford was there in 1982. Mr. Peckford brought in the Notwithstanding Act against us. Okay.
Every provincial premier at that point could have said, hey, we need to change the crown to be the people. And not one of them did it.
So as you know, I have nothing against Mr. Peckford. But the thing is grasping at straws and keeping the political parties in there. It's not what we do. So he's about politics. We'll leave him with the politics. We're about the people. And any other group that's about politics, we have nothing to do with either. We're not tied to any of that. We're about the people. We're about our rights that we already have and pushing that through. But we need the people to be on the right side here and not chasing rainbows.
Be very careful. Be very careful when it says we're going to look after this for you. We're going to do this for you. You need to give us, we will do this once we're in power. This is about, if whatever a group is proposing doesn't have the ability for the people to have referendums, doesn't have the ability for the people to have, and when they say, well, we already have the ability to referendums that aren't controlled by the government. Right now, the government at every level has ultimate say over whether or not a referendum will or will not happen. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with whether or not the question is legal or not, whether or not it's about a policy or not. It is control as to whether or not it will or will not happen, period.
Mm-hmm. So, in regards to our rights, okay, that's truly important because, what I need to say here is that people like Mr. Peckford, any parliamentarians, and I've said this before, the premiers at that time and anybody in government, if they didn't know what we know, okay, you're free. And it's the same thing with the constitutional lawyers. We've read stuff from constitutional lawyers up and down for hours and days and weeks and months and years, in fact, okay? And plus all of the stuff from England. So you have to really learn a good skill here to remember everything and to make comparisons, because then it was clear that here they were being taught something different. And when you say that the governments are going and doing backroom deals, that's their constitutional conventions without the people. But on election day, when we go and vote, I haven't voted since 2008. So, and that was October 14, 2008. And I knew at that point, the people needed to rule, and I was going to set out to do this. And that's how I got myself onto Six Nations. And I'm right here today, 13 years later. 13 years later, we have the solution. And it's one that the people can change because we already have that right. We're standing in our legal rights to do it. Now, corruption can take part in that and try to get in the way. But if they see that we all know our rights and that the police, the GRC in French, the RCMP, you know, CSIS, the military, they are all equal shareholders with us and their children. To go and act against that, they would be fools. Even the parliamentarians would be fools. So which piper are they paying? Or who's paying them?
It's far easier to corrupt 338 elected officials, the political parties. The political parties actually represent a very small percentage of Canadians, with the exception of the Conservative Party now. They've garnered for the first time in history the largest numbers of members. But in politics in Canada, the way our government is, the political party only listens to its members. They do not listen to the public. The constituent base in every riding, if you have a Conservative MP or MLA, they only listen to the people that hold party cards that are Conservative, and unless there's a way for them to garner a vote, you know, to show sympathy, and they're going to have a, you know, they'll get your vote, then they'll do something above and beyond, but only then. They're in the business of getting reelected. They're in the business of getting elected in the first place and then getting reelected. And that's pretty much their only business.
Yeah. And, you know, the political power belongs to the people, which we give on election day. So a lot of people are worried now about Bill C-11 and all that. Whatever Trudeau, excuse me, is doing right now, and since 1982, we can legally show that our rights were subverted. It was a coup d'etat against the will of the people. The people didn't know on purpose by the government, and we can trash all that. Buyer beware, okay? And the thing is whoever invested here in Canada in our rights, these are our natural resources. They had no rights to sell them to other countries or to do anything like that. So we're standing in our rights, people. You want your natural resources? Follow the power shift, do the power shift.
And that's where these injunctions come into play, right? Until we figure all of this out. Canada used to be, like in the 60s and into the early 70s, Canada used to have very strict regulations as to how much foreign interest could own, how certain industries could only have a certain percentage of foreign interest or foreign ownership. And Trudeau Sr. did away with all of that. And each subsequent government has sort of chipped away at that as well. So they all work in tandem together. And, you know, why can't Canadians, why are we not responsible enough or savvy enough, or, you know, we're pretty resilient people, and we troubleshoot the shit out of anything. Why can't we develop our own resources? We have 18 natural gas, we have 18 refineries across Canada. Why can we not supply Canada with our own, like, there's this whole thing, there's all of these consortiums, and I call them consortiums, and that's kind of a catch-all phrase, folks, so don't get caught up on that word. But there's all these consortiums around natural resources worldwide. There's a consortium for natural gas, there's a consortium for propane, there's a consortium for oil, there's a consortium for gas, there's water, there's food, dairy, maple syrup, you name it. There is a consortium around it where they tightly control all of that. And why is that? We should be self-sufficient. We were on our way in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. We were on our way to becoming a completely self-sufficient, reliant country. And that was all stopped. It was all stopped. And all of a sudden, this whole just-in-time supply and demand, all of that was incorporated. Well, just-in-time supply and demand, look what we're living with now. That's what you get with just-in-time supply and demand. One little blip somewhere in the world and you don't have baby formula. One little
Yeah.
blip somewhere in the world. We have a baby formula plant in Canada that cannot sell baby formula in Canada.
Yeah, and you know, this new world governance thing, every country is going to have the right to produce certain things, and every country is going to have dibs on taking that supply. And if you don't have dibs on it yourself, that you're creating in your own country, well, you could kiss it goodbye. So what do you want? Do you want true freedom, standing in your power? We've got the wide open door. It's up to you.
I guess what we're saying, folks, is we have never been about just one issue. We have never been about what's happening solely today or over the last 2 years. We have always been the power shift and the Canadian People's Union, the powers of solution that the Canadian People's Union developed and the Canadian People's Union itself have always been about the root issue that causes all of these other things. And that's what we'll be fixing together.
Yeah.
All of us together. That's what we'll be fixing, is that root, that one key, that first key, that
Yeah,
first.
Because I came for full circle, okay? I remember my first petition ever, okay, in Montreal. I'd done a petition before once back home in Temiskaming. But in Montreal, I had this petition that was going on the street at St. Catharines, getting everybody to sign. And it was about removing final decision-making authority from Stephen Harper and all the politicians. And then I came to Six Nations, did all the research, came full circle again. Same issue. The root cause. What's the root cause in Canada? What's the root cause of every country? Our politicians. Some of them, it's the way their system works. But we have a good system that could work for us. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. All of the people working in government right now that isn't a politician is an owner of that government. So who best to make sure to look out for our interests than the federal employees and everybody, now that they know that they're shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada and all of its assets along with us.
Imagine being a federal government employee, that the federal government couldn't take away your job overnight. They couldn't say you have to do this aside from your collective bargaining agreement. They couldn't all of a sudden come to you one day and change that all up and say, if you don't cut your hair short, if you don't lose 50 pounds, if you don't do whatever, you're not going to have a job. Because right now, that's exactly what the federal government is doing.
And worse, and worse, and worse. We might not have bombs falling on our heads, but we've got something even worse going through our veins. Okay.
So this
hang on, Rhonda.
This stops that.
Yeah. The lifeblood of this country, the blood that flows in this country, is the blood of the Indigenous nations. That's the true culture in this country, the true culture. And if we can't respect that culture and work hand in hand with them, and to make sure that they have everything they need and we have everything we need, I mean, this could be very beautiful. And that some of the teachings, even though they've forgotten a lot of their teachings, and I have to be honest with this is the great law. And, they told me, well, Nicole, if you want to speak to our people, you need to learn the great law. And I went, wow, okay, this is a constitution by the people. Let's bring it back. Not all, we don't need to have all of it, but some of the teachings in there is something that our Canadian government has made sure nobody ever learns. And those are the ones we need to learn and appreciate and respect. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Canada has a reputation of being the friendliest, the most genuinely friendly people, and genuinely the warmest people. How did that culture come about? That culture came about because the first settlers, when they came here, they were embraced and they were taught collaboration, and they were helped. They helped each other out. They and the Indigenous people that they lived alongside helped each other out. And that is a fundamental culture that is still ingrained. And that is the culture that Trudeau and all politicians want removed. And for whatever reason, no matter how hard they try, it's still there. It's still there. It is a fundamental part of our country. It is our roots. It is and we need to, we can't forget that. It is about working together. And there are people, don't get me wrong, when all of this stuff started happening way back when, people were appalled. But could they do anything about it? No, because guess what? Already back then, the government had total control over what the people could and could not do. Do you think the average person would have allowed what happened to happen at the scale that it did if they had had a voice that was listened to?
Yeah.
I grew up in small town Saskatchewan. And let me tell you, people help each other. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, people help each other.
Yeah. And it's only by sharing together and talking together and getting together, getting together, that it starts. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I thank goodness that I came to the Six Nations and learned about stuff. And then I was able to see what I saw and learn what I did, because you can't erase that from my mind anymore. And I could talk about it in my sleep. But the thing is, you know, Canadians are responsible for our own constitution. And it's up to us to bring them along as equal shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada. If they don't want it, well, hey, we did what we could, right? And why would they refuse that? It's a dream come true, not just for them to step into their rights as equal shareholders of Canada, co-owners, because, and this is not mob rule, this is every shareholder having a say. It is the great law. And then when you look at the Australia, New Zealand, all of the other countries can do the same. Every other country can do what we are doing right now. Legally, it's all their right.
We have people in other countries that are watching this very closely, because once this is successful, guess what's happening in their country?
Spread the love.
It really is about coming. It really is about the people coming together. We have been so conditioned to think adversarially about each other, and yet at the same time, it's not a natural position that we come from. Like, it's not a natural place for so many people. And I think that's the disconnect that we feel in our instincts. That's that right. Disconnect. And yeah, this helps that. Like this helps that, okay. You know, yeah.
Rhonda, there's a question here. Somebody's saying, is there a need to differentiate our new governance model from communism for the uninitiated? Communism label seems to be thrown around a lot. Yes, it's, you know, but you can't throw communism along with shareholders, co-owners of the Crown. Communism is a government, a communist government, and then they make everybody work for the government, but the people have no say. Here, you're a shareholder. It's a business.
We have a communist government right now, by that definition. We're taking our governance away from that.
You can't put shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada with a 1 vote share each in the same breath as communism, Marxism, or any of the other isms, okay? That is about us having the right to our political and civil rights. It has nothing, like I said, it has nothing to do with mob rule. Zero. We get mob rule by what? Small communities or groups who are getting their way above the rights of the majority and changing our structure.
Changing how you live your life because of having to concede change. There used to be a philosophy of live and let live, right? And that's a good philosophy to have. It wasn't until, you know, if our government had had that philosophy all along, all of these special interest groups would have been able to just live their lives as they live their lives and go along with their business, and nobody would have had to be involved. No one would have been making decisions for them. They would have been able to just do what they wanted to do, which is really ultimately what people want. They just want to be able to live their lives the way they want to live their lives. And that's what this gives us, is the ability to live our lives the way we want to live our lives.
Imagine the change, okay, in citizenship here in Canada, how the people are going to be alleviated in their power, but all at the same time, the police, the RCMP, everybody will know their place. And what I mean by that is that we're all shareholders, co-owners, to work together to make this a safe place, to work together to, you know, prosper, to all have what we need, for homeless people to have a home.
Exactly. People would come here knowing that the situation that they're leaving isn't being fostered here by other people from their country. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not bringing their conflict with them to this country. Instead,
well, a lot of them are trying. Like, I mean, here, okay, what's Canada? It's about multicultures coming together, but you need to leave what's going on, what you ran away over there, and not do it here, because, and this is one thing, I'm glad, Rhonda, you went back to that, because the one thing that I have in mind before we got together, decide to do this live, was that we need to be careful that the oppressed do not become the oppressors, because they always do.
Exactly.
Okay. So we need to stay away from that, because a lot of people will carry that crap over here and then get us involved in what's going on over there. That's none of our business, really, in a sense. And our government has no business causing shit in other countries. We need to help those people, yes. We need to participate in that. And we can't be arguing amongst each other. When you become a Canadian, you're a Canadian. Okay. And then we have the Indigenous nations. The French and the English, when Canada was created, the French were here first. And and I said that last night, okay, one of the reasons why Quebec can't separate, okay, or any other province, is that when England won over France in the Paris Treaty, the French only got the right to their religion, Catholic religion, and to their civil code. They didn't inherit the province. Okay, they can't decolonize because they were one of the colonizers. We can't decolonize because, well, we were sent here with the UK, but by the UK, but a lot of people came over anyways on their own. But at first, they had to work 3 years without pay, and they were actually like almost slaves.
We came as indentured servants. We came as indentured servants. Yeah,
for 3 years, and only after that could they become, you know, participate in this country. So go back to your history and you'll see it's not all that pretty. So when we're trying to build a country here amongst different cultures, different nationalities, whatever, the first line is you're a Canadian. But the Indigenous peoples were here. They have no business to that.
They're Indigenous.
They have their own rights. They were here. Okay.
That's where the
Canadian. Yeah, but I'm just going to finish on this. A Canadian, okay, an Indigenous person is not a Canadian, nor a US American, or even in Mexico. Okay, a Mexican. They are North American.
North American Indigenous people.
Yeah. So they're North American, and that's why they didn't have borders, okay, between Canada and the US. That was the corporations, the new governments coming into power, separating the country. I mean, the landmass.
And why did they want the landmass separated? Again, resources, trade, all of that stuff, taxes. Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why they wanted the landmasses separate. It's all about, again, that corporate think of how we're governed versus the country being a corporation. So I just want to say about the two-row wampum. You're going to see more videos on this. If you go to the event on Facebook, if you go to the event tab of our event under discussion, you'll see videos in there. Please watch them. They are wonderful at explaining the two-row wampum. And the two-row wampum in simplistic terms is basically just the two cultures coming together parallel. We're walking the same, or it started out as two boats, right? On the same river, a canoe and a boat on the same river, linked by chain so that it could not be broken. So they always stayed together. One would not be ahead of the other. One would not be over the other. They stayed in tandem together. They did not assimilate. They did not, they were very respectful of each other's cultures, and they worked together collectively, consensusly, collaboratively to build a strong country. That's what it was intended for. And that just got decimated. It got decimated.
Yeah, so we can bring it back, the power of the people, with, the one living, honoring the two-row, because it's also part of their great law in the sense, because they've adopted that. Because of their great law, that's where the two-row came in and why they were so nice, and trying to get along. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but they weren't that great and they were attacking each other. That's neither here nor there, everybody on each side were cannibals, murderers, liars, and cheats.
It was a different world.
Way back.
It was a different world, people, and you cannot apply what happened back then to today. We hopefully have learned from all of that. My ancestors came from a country where their land was being taken out from them, their houses burned, and they were being starved to death.
Yeah, and both our own people sold us out. Now it's time that we can rise together and do it right. We already have that right. It's already embedded in law. Let's walk through that door. So we're going to leave you with this. And, we need your help. You've got a huge responsibility. It could be overwhelming. But now's the time that when, somebody mentions something, let's hope that there's a new model. The new model is about us getting together in our rights. And then if you look at this, we're no longer going to have to sue our government, because when the government, now you've got governments offering, we'll pay you so much money to do this, right? We're going to give you money so you can vote for us. They're giving you your own money. I mean, talk about an insult. Every time that government opens its mouth to say they're giving you something,
it's your money.
It out of your bank account.
They're taking $1 and giving you back 2 cents.
Well, not only that, it's your own money.
That's what I mean. They're taking $1 from you and giving you back 2 cents of your own money.
So now we won't have to sue the government so much. Excuse me. And then we won't have corporations taking up the time of our court systems where the people are neglected.
Corporate lobbying just would not happen. Instead, what you would have is citizens all across Canada who would deal in the specific issues in their own areas. And then we would have which is what was supposed to happen. I don't know if you guys remember, coming from a small town, we had town halls, we had town events where everybody got together to make a decision. That happened. And again, as I got older, it sort of disappeared. It started disappearing as government took over decision-making for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so our event is actually an event in celebration, in uniting within our legal rights, our lawful rights as co-owners, shareholders of the Crown of Canada, to make it work. So we don't want to see any protest. It's not a protest. No protest signs will be allowed on the Hill. Okay,
it's a celebration, people. This is the first time.
And it's about the power shift, not about anything else. No mandates, no nothing. No F Trudeau's, no nothing. We don't want to see that. because we want to be able to show the world what we're doing. And if you're serious about freedom and wanting to help save humanity, well, please do the right thing.
The other thing as well, folks, we get that not everybody can come to Ottawa. We get it. It is extremely, it's going to be like, let me tell you, it's not easy getting to Ottawa if you live anywhere but Ontario and Quebec. So, and even then it's difficult in certain parts. Like we're talking hours of driving. Some people just do not have that capability. Go to your town hall. Go to if you live in a city that has the legislature building, go to the legislature building.
Start organizing your communities. That's exactly your responsibility.
Get the word out for people to show up in those locations. If no one wants to step up and actually become an organizer because they're scared to, just tell people to show up.
Yeah. And, we can also make sure that we get something going into the courts at some level. And that's why we need your financial support. We can't pull money out of our, where the sun don't shine, but Rhonda, like Rhonda says, if we would have had the money to back us up like other groups have, we could have gotten this done a long time ago. But the people are not really supporting us. We have some people who are constantly supporting us, but it's always the same ones. But we so can't grateful. Pay for this by ourselves.
Any support we do get, we are so grateful for, because again, this is a membership funded, driven,
and people who want to donate, well, get yourself a membership. That helps us pay for everything that we're doing.
And you don't have to pay for your membership.
Go ahead, Rhonda.
You don't have to pay for your membership all at once. We've got on there that the annual membership is broken out into 12 equal payments. You can do it that way. It's $10 a month.
Yeah, so there's no excuse for people not to join. And even at $10 a month, people have to make sacrifices. We've made sacrifices. What sacrifice are you ready to do to save your country, to save your children's future? You say you love your kids, you love this country. Put your money where your mouth is. Make this happen. Make this the greatest. Each one of you controls how this celebration will end up like by your actions and being respectful and honoring the Indigenous nations. Not about protesting anything, not about F. Trudeau's, not about coming in convoys and trying to take over Parliament. No, that's not. We need to make sure the city is clean, that there's no obstructions, that everybody can get there, because the Ottawa citizens also own that city, along with every other Canadian citizen across the country. We need to respect what we own, people, and to do it the right way. So, if you want the cops to respect you, respect them as well as shareholders, co-owners of the Crown, and then they'll have to respect us as well and back off. It's all about uniting. It's all about understanding who we are and then what our jobs are at the end of the day. But the first line here is we're all shareholders, co-owners of the Crown of Canada. Then your job comes second, not first.
And we can't do it. We're not the leaders in this, people. You are. And that's why we are, again, so grateful when people step up and start taking responsibility and start sharing this and start getting people signing and all of that. This is the only way this is going to work, is all of us together, working together, truly. If we can't do it together, it's not about having, PR spokespeople. It's not about paying some celebrity to come on board to do.
Everybody has a responsibility. They can't be expecting money to do this.
Exactly. And people that are showing up to help speak and stuff like that none of them are paid, folks. None of them are paid, because this is about our country. It's about us. It's not about the speaking circuit. It's about. And again, it's about brainstorming. It's going to be a brainstorming weekend, brain sailing, I guess some people call it now, where it's all about the envisioning of what we need to do to fix stuff that is so broken right now, and to make sure that what has happened, learn from what's happened over the last few years to ensure that that does not happen going forward.
Yeah. And Lori, thank you for being our new member. And yes, co-owner of Canada would be great on a t-shirt, but you write Power Shift because that's the actually
we could put some t-shirts. We could put some t-shirts like that in our store. People can buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, hey, you know, this is about everybody. It's not just about us.
Yeah.
It's about finally putting something on that will be bigger than the convoy or anything like that, and not as okay, the convoy was peaceful and everything, but still the intimidation of the big trucks and everything and the tractors. Okay, that was all great, but not for this event. Okay.
We want the people of Ottawa to join us. We don't want them to feel like we are
bullying our way through.
Yeah.
We don't need to bully our way through here. Everything in respect, in unity, and to
harmony.
I mean, yeah. And what about visiting Ottawa? We all own it, people.
I'm excited I've never been to Ottawa. I am so excited. My son is just ecstatic.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
We're looking forward to, and this is, if you've never been to Ottawa, I hope you're taking the same approach that we're taking. We want to do some sightseeing. We want to
be proud. It's a celebration of what we own.
Yeah, we want to do some
you're used to. Yeah, people need to get used to. You are a shareholder, co-owner of Canada. Look at the beauty you own. Be proud, but don't be a bully, because it's about collective ownership. It's not about single ownership. There's a difference. Okay.
And oh my God, if we had 50,000 people in downtown Ottawa, that would be fantastic. Again, if you have like the 30th, July 30th, if you have only one day that you can be there, Saturday, July 30th is the day.
That's the D-Day. Yes. And this way you can go wherever else you want for that holiday, because it is a holiday weekend. But on Saturday evening, for our C.P.U paid members, we're staying at the Restays Hotel. There's a terrace there, and we're going to be inviting our members. Okay, you'll have a special card that you'll have to produce, and to be able to enter the terrace, the area. And we're going to be hobnobbing with our members personally, not just on the hill, because there'll be other people, right? But this way we can give you our full attention and hobnob with you from 7 p.m. to whatever hour they allow us to have. So again, you know, we need your support. We're also going to have what they call the Sky Lounge on the Saturday evening. We're going to be live streaming our speakers from the Sky Lounge with the Parliament at the back. Okay, and some of these will be doctors and lawyers and whatnot. So you'll be able to we're going to be showing that on live stream in the evening, but we kept it from 10 a.m. at Parliament to 5 p.m. so that people can kind of relax, get together and enjoy each other. So we're going to be developing our program as we go, when we know who's speaking, what we're doing, what day. But the Saturday is about honoring the two-row, learning about it, honoring the nations there. And then on Sunday, it will, and Sunday will be about education, or getting communities, getting everybody to get together, and who's from Ontario, who's from Quebec, who's from Saskatchewan, whoever, you know, and then make groups, and then so that you can meet face to face, and then go off back home, and then work from, you know, your Zooms or whatever, and being able to unite and strategize. What do you want to see for your country? How can you get more people knowing? Because we can't have access to television, and the media sucks. They're all bought and paid for. So how do we get the word out? People have to go door knocking, you know, and so we need your help. This is a one in a lifetime chance to change the world forever if we do it right. But nobody can be a bully. Nobody can, it's got to be done the right way. And we don't want to block and have anything blocked off in Ottawa. We don't want to cause chaos. We want this as a celebration, admiring the city, seeing, okay, what that city can do. You know, it's about coming together in a peaceful way where everybody's going to know what's coming down. No surprises. And we're going to watch out for any infiltrators, and then have a nice time in Ottawa, not there to overtake and override and overrun. We already have our rights, people. We don't need to bully anybody. We just need to stand united in peace.
And we want to get all of Ottawa involved, the people of Ottawa. The other thing is, if you can't make it there and you do plan on doing something or attending something in your own city or town or municipality, wherever you are, please give your information, your email address, or a way to contact you to Richard at thePowerShift.ca. The reason for this is we are hoping to be able to do live videos all across Canada, to bring people on through live videos all across Canada. But we need a way to contact you, and you need to have a smartphone that has internet access, and you need to understand how to join us on Zooms and stuff like that. So if we need to have a quick tutorial before that weekend to go over it with everybody, we will. But we need to know who those contact people are, at least one person that's going to be there. And make sure that the hours that you're telling people are between 11 and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Between those hours, we should be able to get people all across Canada.
Yeah.
So, and this way it's at the same hours, like, so everybody knows, and there'll be kind of a schedule, hopefully. But again, we need people to contact Richard at thePowerShift.ca.
Yeah. So the reason why we're staying at the Restays is because of the view. No,
and it's close.
It's really because.
And it's close.
The real reason is because it was the fastest to get to Parliament Hill before I broke trying to get there.
We're talking, a lot of us, I don't know if you guys realize, but a lot of us have chronic health issues.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, I've been in two major motorcycle accidents. I need something close that doesn't involve a 6-block walk before I get there.
Yeah, and my doctor threatened to, well, she said she had to order me a double lung transplant. And then I've got other issues. So it's like, we need to get this done, people, real quick, you know. And but the more that we're doing this, the more I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm walking more, but I can't walk too far. So and neither can Pierrette with her knees, and Rhonda, and it's like, okay. So we needed to be close enough that we can get to the Parliament without, you know, and then we didn't know what was going to happen in Ottawa that day, those days. So we needed to make sure that we weren't stuck somewhere trying to get in or not being able to make it. And then when we saw that we can rent these places, we went, okay, well, we're going to go for broke here. We're going to rent them so that people can see, and, you know, that without, we don't know how hot it's going to be. So we got umbrellas. We ordered 300 umbrellas that look like our flag. So there'll be something done with that as well. And because I can't be in the sun with my medication. Okay. So a lot of these little issues are there. So don't wonder why we're there. But when they had this terrace right around the corner, I went, yes, let's see if we can get a block party. Okay.
And not only that, but we also, if we want to do an interview with somebody, it's nice to have something placed close that is quiet and contained. And
air conditioned.
And like Nicole said, for some people's health, that kind of thing. We just wanted to try to be inclusive for everybody, with we're hoping a lot of elders come. We're hoping there's a lot of that happening. So we just wanted to make sure that there's kind of a respite area that.
Yeah. So,
you know,
instead of trucks being in front of Parliament, what we need are tents for, and this is why we requested a kind of a block party event type thing, so that we can, yes, we can, then we could have a screen, we could have different things happening, but tents for the elders to sit under. They've only allowed us one tent on Parliament Hill. And then a place for signatures, a place for, even if there's native Indigenous dancers, they don't need to dance at the big heat. They could probably, you know, from a tent,
Mhm.
and then everybody can see that on stage or whatever. So we're still in a huge planning stage, but the more magnificent, the more respectful it is, the better it will be. But we also need the funding to be able to do those things. And that's your representation. That's why it's important. This event will represent every single Canadian across Canada.
This is about
So
bringing
you don't want
Canada
it to flop.
Yeah, this is about bringing Canada together and uniting us all. So it's not about paying for people's gas to get there. It's not about any of that. It's just about getting this done.
Done, yes, legally. And hopefully, you know, keep this country peaceful. None of the provinces can separate, so you need to drop that stupidity right now and focus on the real issue. The rights for all Canadians and Indigenous nations to finally control this country the right way, to be in control of our country, our assets, and our future. We're not removing government. They won't be able to make final decisions on many of the things that we decide that we're going to have. And yes, we will have umbrellas, Marvin. Okay.
You have to
But
be quick.
again,
You have to be quick. They're first come, first serve, folks. We're not,
Yeah.
you can't pre-order
didn't-
them. You can't.
no, and we don't have enough money because we've got to pay lawyers here and in the UK. We have very little money that was kindly donated by a lot of people who continuously support us, but we're
We
not
s-
getting any other outside help.
No, we
So,
scraped together enough to get 300 umbrellas, folks. That's,
Yeah, and in order to pay monthly bills and everything else, we need an influx of memberships, which we're not getting. Okay, so pick and choose your poison in the sense. Okay, either you choose your poison or you choose your freedom.
we're also looking for sponsors. If you know of businesses who, or if you're a business and you can, you know, talk to your accountant and see if there's a way for you to do this. And again, there's nothing that's ever going to happen to your bank account or anything, because we're not a coup. We're not trying to overthrow government. We're not trying to do things that are illegal and or have any questionable connotations attached to them. And we're not occupying anything. We're there to have a celebration and to over a very defined time. We have permits. We're going to abide by them. That's exactly what we're doing. So there's absolutely no bad recourse that could happen. And so, if you sponsorship in any way, sponsorship of buses, there's just so many ways. Like if you know businesses that would be interested in this, if you know businesses that are on board,
It's all in their best interest to do this, all of them.
Exactly. So because it again brings Canada much stronger, closer together. Government, stopping the government overreach into core entrepreneur businesses, that type of stuff, that it very much, again, gives us a lot more hope and a lot more.
And bringing back the mom and pop stores, everybody who's trying to make a living,
Yes,
to prosper better, equal opportunity, people. It's going to be here. It's at your door.
Yeah.
Walk through that door with us at the Power Shift. And this can happen if you will.
And this does not mean that government grants are going away either. I've had that asked me too. So if I support this, does this mean I'm going to lose my government grant? No. It does mean, though, that things are going to be reevaluated, because you may not need a grant if other things take place where you get to keep more of the money that you make.
Yeah. Okay. Dividends, think dividends, people.
So
yeah, economy.
There's just
no more cost for university. We can create our own money in Canada for what we spend in Canada. Okay. Why is there a reason to pay for university or college or all of these things when that should be sponsored by the people? We are all shareholders. Okay, there's some things that we have to charge for.
All of our resources should go to that.
Yeah, to expand the minds of our children and to make the best out of the technology that we have and the knowledge and everything else. There's so much more that could be done. Healthcare, everything. Now, in the meantime, please send us your little video at dare to dream at thePowerShift.ca. Well, just go to our website, thePowerShift.ca, enter our contest, show us what you want. We're going to be showing that on live stream in Ottawa, if you're okay with that.
If you're okay with that. You don't have to show your face. If it's just your voice, you can just have a picture up while you're talking.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. Just tell us your ideas.
Yeah, and if you've got a big chip on your shoulders and you're coming, you want to come over there and you're angry, stay home. It's not a place for anger. It's not a place for bullying.
We hope
not a place for nothing.
If you're angry now, we hope by the time this rolls around that you're coming for a celebration. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Time
and feel good.
And power, celebration and empowerment, really, because it's coming into our own, that's really what it is. It's coming into our own, which is what our governments have told us, that people are not ready. It's coming into our own and telling them that we are ready.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we've been here long enough, Rhonda. We're going to cut this off. Thank you, Mr. Wansbutter. And for everybody who stayed with us, I wasn't able to see how many people were here, but anyways, I think we covered pretty much everything. It's
been a long one. This is the longest video we've ever done, folks.
Well, I think it was necessary.
Yeah.
So that we could cover enough and not have to do segments and say, oh, we said that in this segment and that segment. Okay. So anyways, yes, we will be doing one. Now I have to do one in French with Pierrette and everybody else to cover what we just covered today.
Because we covered the French one that was done yesterday, and now we've
added more. So I'm gonna have to show Miss Wansbutter's video in French.
Yeah.
Okay. So pour les Français, là, on va revenir en français. Puis avec Pierrette et tout le monde, je sais pas pourquoi je l'ai dit en anglais là, mais la vidéo qu'on a montré tantôt, on va mettre le lien, puis vous pouvez aller le voir là, avec la traduction français sur YouTube. Mais je vais leur jouer avec Pierrette tantôt, plus tard. Soit à ce soir, ça va dépendre parce que là, on a des tempêtes chez nous. Je ne sais pas comment mon Internet va être. Ça se peut que là, celui-là, Pierrette va être bien aussi, ou les autres. Là, je ne sais pas s'il y en a d'autres qui vont nous rejoindre en français. Mais l'ouverture est là. Puis, soit aujourd'hui ou demain. OK? Merci beaucoup. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to let you go with that. Remember, power shift to freedom. And it's all about respect, love, and honoring the beauty of this country, really looking at how lucky we are, and to respect everybody and respect people in Ottawa. They are all shareholders of the Crown of Canada too, so they need to respect us as well. They can't be complaining. This is all for them as well. And if they work, most of them work for the government, well, hey, they need to look at that building a lot differently. It's not their, how can I say, it's more than just their job. Okay, it's more than just their job. And while they're doing their job great for us, at least there are eyes to see what's going on, what needs to be done, what needs to be changed. They will know what needs to be fixed as well. So we need everybody to get along, everybody to respect each other, and just move forward. So bye-bye, thePowerShift.ca. Okay. Oh, and by the way, the truckers, we welcome the truckers. Just maybe we can park outside so that nothing gets blocked, because we want room for tents, not trucks at Parliament. For the people, it's about education. It's about all of our rights and places where we can give out water and stuff like that. So, we'll see about if there's places that you can park. We'll see about getting buses and to bus everybody down to Parliament, okay?
Yeah, we want the streets to be filled with people.
Yeah, not trucks, okay?
Yeah.
So that's what needs to happen, because then it makes it too hard.
It's not a protest. It's not a protest.
That's not a protest, okay? So no bullying, just love, respect, and unity, and enjoy the beautiful city. And let's go and venture to see, hey, we own this. Canada belongs to everybody, okay? Equally with the Indigenous nations. So goodbye, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.